I have a few comments about the election before I move away from politics a little bit. Aside from Florida, the election didn't go as well for Republicans as many people had predicted. There are a few reasons for this, which I'll get into in a minute, but first I'll make a side note. I follow many prominent MAGA Republicans on this account, ranging from lawyers to political advisors to podcasters, and all of these individuals do great work and always have America's best interest in mind. I would encourage you to check them out. One thing I do find slightly annoying is when many of these big-name Republicans predict a red wave. This happened in 2020, and it happened again before this election. There's never really a way to accurately predict that in advance, and it can actually cause other Republicans to become too optimistic and not fight as hard as they otherwise would. I never anticipate or predict a red wave, and I never acknowledge any post that does. To be fair, there was a valid basis for their prediction that this election would be a huge win for Republicans. Violence in our big cities is at an all-time high, the cost of living is skyrocketing, schools are damaging our kids both physically and psychologically by pushing CRT and gender theory, we're inching closer to a nuclear war, and the current administration is responsible for all of this. So why didn't the red wave that many people predicted materialize? One reason is that many people still don't realize that the things I just mentioned are going on. They either don't get information from the right sources, or they intentionally overlook what they don't want to face. As a result, they continue to vote the party line, and America remains an evenly divided nation. Another likely factor is the Dobbs v. Jackson ruling, which, as I've said before, I supported but not in a big way. In addition to having fairly moderate views on abortion rights, I didn't think an election year was a smart time to make that decision. Then there's the early and mail-in voting. There's no way to know how many people who utilize these voting methods were non-voters before 2020, but these people are out there, and it does have an impact. When John Fetterman had an embarrassing debate performance against Dr. Oz 2 weeks ago, many Democrat voters in Pennsylvania had already voted for him. If you haven't seen clips from this debate, by the way, you should look it up. The left knows they benefit from non-conventional voting methods, and that's why they're trying to make these methods permanent. A possible election factor that's somewhat specific to the Northeast, where some of the biggest upsets were, is that many Republicans have left New England and the Mid-Atlantic for places like Florida. The seismic political shift in Florida is largely due to Ron DeSantis' great leadership and a changing political leaning among Hispanics in the Miami metro, but that likely doesn't explain all of it. Florida is the third most populated state, and the higher the population, the more it takes to create a major political shift. A certain percentage of these voters likely came from New York, Massachusetts, Jersey, Pennsylvania, states where Republicans are fed up with weak, America-last candidates getting voted in and reducing the quality of life. One last point about Florida. Florida's wins are a major victory for the entire country. The state has become a model for how every state should be run, and if it wasn't for Florida's example, the establishment would be able to pull off their antics more easily because there wouldn't be a baseline for comparison. Florida has more ballots to count than 47 of the 50 states, yet they always manage to complete the count and report the results the night of the election. There is absolutely no excuse why the winner of the Arizona governor race hasn't yet been determined as of Thursday afternoon, and basically all because of various issues in Maricopa County that shouldn't be occurring. I believe that any vote count that takes significantly longer than the traditional time frame to tally up should be automatically ruled invalid. There's no reason it should take that long unless you're trying to manipulate the results. Florida has set the stage for how all of America should operate, and I hope that the leaders of other states begin following suit.